Hi, you guys. Hi. You guys all know me, but I'm going to say my name anyway. I'm Deborah Dawson. I'm a watercolor artist, and I am a renderer. I sketch. I love using my drawing skills, and that's one of the things that really goes well with watercolor is having good, strong drawing skills. And today's lesson or demo will kind of emphasize that, because in the final part of the detail work and the brush work, you'll see that I incorporate a lot of drawing skills. And what I've just done, so this painting here, I took from a photo of a sunrise as I was coming through the canyon a couple weeks ago. And the first time, I always do my paintings more than once. And the first painting that I did, I knew somebody was going to accuse me of painting a forest fire because it triggered some people. So then I did another painting and I calmed down. I made it a little more subtle. And one of the reasons I do more than one painting, well, because Monet did it. He did the haystacks over and over and over again. And it's, the first one is trial and error. The second one, you go in and you resolve your issues. And then the third one, you get to play and have fun because you're more confident. Hopefully by that time you're ready to take some risks and just be playful. One of the things that I noticed about this painting as I painted it 2 days ago, is that depending on the light in the house, it almost was like you saw different levels of, or different times of the sunrise itself. At some point the trees were more silhouetted and dark, like the sun was just barely coming up. And then as more sun hit my house, then more colors started to show up. So I thought that was kind of an interesting effect that I didn't intend. That's one of the fun things about watercolor is there's so much spontaneity, and you can never paint the same painting twice the same way. It's just, you have to, it's very fluid, and you have to be open to it being fluid.
Yeah, this one's brighter than that one.
Well,
yellow.
this one was my last little study that I did yesterday after I'd already matted and framed this one, because I just wanted to see what would happen is if I just treated it a little bit lighter in values and a little bit more watercolory, I guess is kind of a weird word to use, but I often will do different sizes. I will work on different kinds of paper. This paper that I painted on is Saunders Waterford, which is an old, very highly esteemed watercolor paper from England, and it's very different to work on actually than Arches or Fabriano, which is my favorite. And what I've done today is I've painted the background just to show you what it looks like dry, and then I'm going to show you how I did the background. And then I'll probably work on this one in order to let this dry. In order to get these really subtle skies, it's better if you don't blow dry it. You kind of let the paper and the paint and the water do its thing. If you blow dry it, you can lose some of the effects. And if you need the time you need to blow dry it, of course that's an option. But when I'm doing really interesting skies, I do like letting it dry naturally so that the pigments can do their thing. So what I've done is I've wet this paper. This is Fabriano Artistico, extra white. This is the Saunders Waterford, and this is Kilimanjaro. They're all 100% cotton, they're all 140 pound, and they're all professional quality. The reason I like the the reason I like the Fabriano Artistico is because the sizing in it allows you to do more lifting. And so what I'm going in and doing right now, and it's a little bit on the dry side, I let that kind of soak in. I'm just taking a light yellow, very pale. In watercolors, our colors all dry lighter because after the water evaporates. With acrylics, it's the opposite. It dries darker. So one of the things in watercolors is we all start off really, really light. We use the white of the paper as our whites, and we go from there. We try not to use whites if we can help it, white paint. Although over the years I've kind of loosened up my attitude about that. I used to take pride in being a traditionalist, but I've kind of let that soften, that attitude soften a bit. That was just a light yellow. What I'm doing now is I'm mixing up a rose, and I believe that it's just a permanent rose. And I'm going right over the top and leaving some areas, kind of working on the sides a little bit more with the rose, and leaving some of the center area a little bit lighter. And I'm going to take that rose on down towards the bottom. I am using a 1-inch Grumbacher Kolinsky sable brush. It's over 50 years old. And you can go in and kind of soak up any extra puddles. I'm always dealing with some sort of lint or cat hair. At home I have a little handheld portable hair vacuum that I use, and that it helps, especially when I'm matting and framing. That really helps keep the hair out. Okay, so I've put in my yellow, I've put in my rose. Now I'm going to take some Cerulean Blue Genuine by Da Vinci, which is my favorite cerulean blue because it has a very granulating effect. It's and it's more of a sky blue than a lot of ceruleans. Winsor Newton cerulean kind of leans towards the turquoises, and a lot of cerulean blues are more turquoisey, and I like the more sky blue type. So I'm coming in at the top with that. I mixed it with a little bit of the rose, and I'm taking some of that color and working it in. I'm not overworking my paper or my paints. And my paper is really wet right now, so that's exactly what I want. I know it doesn't look anything like the other one. That's okay. They never do.
Deborah, can I ask you
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
You were saying that the paper that you're working on right now had a better ability to resist. Is that because the fibers of the paper are tighter?
It's the sizing.
Oh, it's a size, okay.
Yeah. It's sized for lifting.
Got it.
And with what I've found with the Saunders Waterford is that see, this is nice to have a portable, this is gator board, it's mounted on gator board. And so what's good about that is I can lift it up and turn it different directions.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I found about the Saunders Waterford is that it seems to take longer to dry as well. And I was under I had been told that the original Saunders paper not only had cotton in it, but also a small amount of wool. But I've recently done some research on that, and it may have had at one time, but it no longer does. So now what I'm doing is I'm just coming in and figuring out where I want to just fill in some areas. This is the touchy part where you don't want to do too much brush work because you could start leaving strokes. Lines but if your paper's wet enough, it should blend. But this is the part where most people don't have enough patience because they want to go in and manipulate it and not let it do its own thing. And I'm manipulating it by holding my board around, but I'm not going to go in and do too much more with a brush unless I decide to drop a little more yellow into the center area, which I'm going to grab a different brush because I don't want to accidentally get some violet in there. I'm working on this is my small portable palette. I have a great big one at home so that I can mix large amounts and keep them fairly separated. On this one, I have to be a little bit more aware of what I'm mixing and where I'm mixing it, because I don't want to contaminate the colors. So I'm just mixing up a little bit of a warmer yellow at this point. It's more of a deep, and I'm just going to, it's so scary, I'm just going to drop in some of that
just adding a little contrast.
just a little bit more because everything's going to dry a little bit lighter. So so this is the fun part, is seeing what will happen. And if there's a hair or something at this point, I'm going to try not to go in and pick it up because it'll brush off later. I just don't want to go in and mess with the wash itself. Did you have a question, Mary?
No, we were discussing, maybe we should get a bigger TV. Yeah, because I like watching the TV, and then Hank was saying something, and yeah, that was.
Well, I thought your hand was up, which is why I
Oh,
asked.
yeah.
So what I'm gonna do at this point, while this is kind of doing its own thing, is I'm going to bring some of that cerulean down in here. Excuse me. That's not what I wanted. Just a minute. Well, maybe I'm not supposed to have it referenced. Okay. Anyway, I'm taking my cerulean on down, and I could also use almost any color blue at this point and just come in and put my horizon in this area, my foreground. And that can be drying while the rest of it is. So, there's a hair. Take it off. I have a new cat. She's got long hair.
Well, you got lots of kitties.
Yeah, but only one comes in the house. So, thank goodness. My little apartment, I can't imagine having 12 cats in there.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so anyway, I'm just...
Well, they keep you all warm at night, though.
They'd get me kicked out of my house.
Oh, yeah, no, we don't want that.
I don't want to be homeless along with them, you know.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so this is going to dry this is going to dry pretty nicely. It'll probably get me to about the same place this one is at. I'm just gonna let it dry. You should usually let these dry flat. And with the tape on there, I know it looks pretty buckly at the moment, but with the tape around the edges, it should go completely flat as this one has done. So, this guy looks completely different than that one, and that's okay. I don't do, I'm a prolific painter, and so most of my paintings, I don't do prints of any of my work. And it's always kind of fun to do the same subject because of that reason. I can sell them as all originals. And they're basically the same reference, but they're all different. And I do mix things up a bit. When I might place my trees in a bit of a different area. I will say that I'm a tree person and I love to do trees. So I've been doing trees since I was a little kid. And I am going to start with, I'm going to talk a little bit about brushes here for a minute. So one of my favorite brushes is this rigger. I think they might call them a sword too, a sword brush. This one is Sable Blend. It's from Rosemary and Company in England. And I just love it. It's got a wobbly point so that your lines never look constructed, they never look man-made, you know, they just have that accidental look that nature has. And that's one of the things that I really love about it. And I'm a calligrapher. I mean, I don't do calligraphy, but I use my brush in a calligraphic way. And I think that when you reach a certain place in your artwork, that it's real important to cash in on the uniqueness of your own signature, your own way of handling a brush. And so you have to practice, and I guess after 40 years I've got a lot of practice time in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to decide where I'm going to place the trees, put a line. I'm thinking of my composition too. And this one will not be like the others. I usually try to think in odd numbers. And I also try to think of not putting things right smack dab in the middle. I try to break things up 1/3 to 2/3 if I can. If I put 3 trees in, that's fine. If I decide to go for 5 to fill in other areas, it's always an odd number. It just makes a more pleasing. I'm just putting that along the edge there, and so that does mean I'm going to go with one more little tree, I think. So, and there will be some things in the center down in the bottom to help balance that all out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take Prussian blue and shaky hand and everything. As I've gotten older, my hands have become more shaky.
It looks so good.
And I'm just making the brush work. I'm using the brush to create a very natural kind of feel so that it doesn't have that contrived tree look, you know. The thing that I love about nature is that everything is really pretty unique, and that's one reason I hate clear cuts when they plant them, because they all look like Christmas trees. But the thing about working this way and don't ask me why I decided to start with this particular tree. I'm going to put some twigs and branches in there, some micro spaces, sky holes. And one of the reasons why I start with blue is because they're silhouetted against the light of the sky. And blue is a good shadow color. But what's fun about this point is that before I go down and finish the rest of the trees, if I want to, I can take, say, dioxazine violet, and I can drop it in and charge some of those wet areas with more different colors. And so just coming on down, varying my lines, varying my my calligraphy to make it interesting. And if you guys have any questions while I'm doing this, feel free to pop them out at me.
Are we doing trees Saturday?
No, we're not.
Okay.
And the reason why, because I doubt if Lane wants to have anything to do with trees. So, but we are doing we're doing a major sky lesson on
Gotcha.
Saturday. So, again, I'm just coming down.
I'm gonna tell her we're doing trees. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, we will be doing something different
Oh, I know.
for the class.
I know.
Yeah.
You know me, babe. I'm like Steve. If it's supposed to be snow, it's what was it? Steve and I did. Oh, we made it a beach instead
Yeah.
of snow.
Yeah.
So it's all
You
good.
gotta
It's all
make it
good.
your own, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make it our own.
So, again, as I'm coming down, I might take some of that brush and broaden them out a little bit, just to vary it a little bit. I might come back up in here and connect some of these branches just so that it's not quite so spotty. When you're working with watercolor, looking at larger shapes and putting some larger shapes in is important. And so I'm just bringing the trunks down a little bit. So it's good to, when you have an opportunity to simplify with connecting some shapes, the eye does the rest when you're viewing it, and it just helps make it more harmonious. You can get so caught up in all the little details and stuff that there's no soft place for the eye to land and rest and take in the painting. So it can be a little distracting if you have too many tiny little things going on. At least that's what I've found. And you know, you need to kind of explore what works for you too. And I'm not saying that any of these rules can't be broken, they can be. And in fact, I was having a discussion with a fellow artist the other day, and she goes, don't you feel like having to follow rules takes away all the artistic part of it, the making, you know, the creativity? And I said, well, I think it depends on the person and the application. I said, I happen to be an academic. I happen to like to approach art academically. It's just who I am. Some people want to be more therapeutic, and that's okay too, you know. So there's no, you know, I'm not going to say one way is better than the other, but I really enjoy approaching watercolor academically, because once you know all the rules, then you have fun breaking them. You know, it's just the way it is. And if you don't know the rules, you know, then you're breaking them without a sense of, well, I think you would probably find that you have more unsuccessful paintings than successful paintings if you don't at least know the rules so that you can break them. And maybe having a successful painting isn't the most important thing to you, and that's fine too. But for anybody who wants to sell their work, you know, instead of just using it to make them feel better on a day when they're depressed or down, is, you know, you have to kind of know what you're doing, I think. And we can discuss that if you disagree. Feel free to discuss that with me. Okay, so far I've got those trees on that side. I'm gonna change up my my colors a little bit on this side, just because I don't want the left side and the right side to look the same. And I may change the type of tree a little bit. I may make these more of a pine, or I may make them a little more solid, a little more bushy. The point being is I just don't want it to all be the same. I want it to be interesting on both sides, so that a person who's looking at it will say, wow, and stand there for a while and study it, you know, become engaged with it. So what I've done is I've taken my cerulean blue and my violet and lightened it up with a lot more water, changing the values. And as I'm coming down here, I might go a little bit darker. I'm still leaving some sky holes between branches and so forth. I think it's the Japanese gardeners that say that all trees need to have sky holes
Yeah.
to be healthy.
Mhm. Yeah, I see your holes in the one you have here,
Mm-hmm.
and I like that. I look forward to doing that in my paintings.
Good. Good.
I tend to just wash it all together though, but yeah, you know, you gotta keep those holes there.
So
Makes
what
it
I'm
look
doing-
realistic, really. Yeah.
Well, you know, somebody asked me the other day, commented on when I posted something on Facebook about how realistic, it was this painting actually, how realistic it was. And I said, yeah, that's always a struggle for me to decide whether I want to go photorealistic, which they never turn out. There's always some poetic license that I incorporate, and or whether I want it to be more poetic, more imaginative, more impressionistic. And I think the fun thing is that I know the difference between those two things, and I have a choice.
Yes.
And I can choose which way I want to do it. That's part of that academic mindset. You know, it's because I know a little bit about art history, and I should know, I have 4 years of art history, but some parts of it are really boring. So what I've done is I've taken this light lavender, it's actually just cerulean blue and violet, and made a little bit less dramatic tree. It's still a beautiful shape. It has a lot of personality and a lot of character, but it's not as complex as this is. And I have a feeling that this will simplify a little bit later as I choose to go in and do some other things. So anyway, I took that violet and the cerulean genuine, mixed them with a lot more water, made them a lighter value. Then I started dropping in some turquoise. some of my cobalt turquoise just around the edges, and just to charge in a little bit of a variation in that color, which looks really nicely against the yellow and the background right there. And then this tree kind of leans over into that, and so what I'm gonna do is just go back into my, fly, get off my paper. Go back into my Prussian. This is gonna be fun because as I build this tree, it's gonna charge over into that other one. Anytime I touch it, you'll see it kind of charges. And that's one of the fascinating things about watercolor is watching the water do its thing. And if I decide that the line that I made for the trunk isn't exactly where it needs to be, I can at this point kind of slightly adjust it. It won't show up much. That's why I always do a real light line to start with.
Do you pick the light part of the painting to put your signature? Because I noticed some are on the left and then some are on the right.
Sometimes what I'm looking for is an area that is empty or
Right.
less busy, and that's basically it.
I knew you weren't ambidextrous.
I actually am.
So am I.
No, I could sit here and paint with two.
Oh no, predominantly left, that's why they stick me in the
Now I
back
wanna
over in
see
the corner. Because everybody else in class is right.
And
So-
you're right too.
Oh no, I'm the lefty in the corner.
Oh, that's right, yeah, you're right.
Everybody
You're
else in the
lefty.
class is all right-handed.
Right-handed, yeah, that's true.
So I'm just kind of going in and charging in a little bit more color. It'll still dry lighter, that's what we always have to remember. And at the moment, what I'm gonna do, is this in the right place?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna come in and, actually what I think I'm going to do is take a little bit of my rose. That's too strong. Rose is a very strong color, so you wanna always dilute it down unless you want that strong color. I'm actually gonna come in some areas, just, it's not strong enough. Let me do this. So this is the Waterford, let's see if it lifts. It's supposed to lift okay, but I don't think it lifts as well as the Fabriano. So, anyway, I'm just gonna take a little bit of that red, that permanent rose, and charge a little bit of that in certain places. Leaning towards the rose a little bit more. In my original photograph, there's actually a lot of orange back behind the trees, and I did that in the first one. That's what everybody said looked like a forest fire. So I decided to go a little bit more on the rose side, which is gives a little bit different feeling, that not so fiery. There's a part of me that wants to say, I don't care if it triggers you or not. I painted it the way I wanted to paint it, but I also live in that area, so I know how awful living through those forest fires are. So I'm just going in, and Prussian blue lightens up about 40% when it dries. It has a shifting quality of about 40% from light to dark. And so you kind of have to know that when you're using it and then make do. You have to make it work for you somehow. So knowing your pigments, and again, my penchant for being academic has helped. Knowing your pigments and their personalities and what it is about them that, because they're all different. You can choose 3 different blues and they all do different things. And so you knowing your personality of your pigment, your traits of that pigment's real important. So I'm going to, and this is, I'll hold that up in a minute. It's starting to flatten out pretty nicely. You can tell the big difference in the color of the paper. This was an off-white, that was a bright white. And I'm going to be switching brushes here in a minute, just because I'm going down into the bottom. I'm using a 10 round. It's an Aqua Elite by Winsor Newton. And I'm switching over to a phthalo blue for down in here. And I'm just putting in a pretty solid wash at the moment. There's really only, for the most part, it's pretty much centered on 3 pigments. I'm using blue, red, and yellow, a primary palette, and this is where you want to keep your strokes. You want to make the end of the brush come up to kind of form. This could be trees, it could be grasses, it could be shrubs, whatever. But for the time being, you want to make sure you kind of end your brush stroke in a way that is conducive to whatever follows. And if you don't want a hard edge, then you need to soften that edge. And you do that by continuing to paint it out with clear water. I'm going to come over here and finish the bottom of this tree, anchor it, and this one as well. And I've still got a lot of work to do on them, but so I'll be going in and working on, I'm dropping in some cobalt blue at the moment into some of these areas. Just because I want the saturation to be a fully saturated piece. I'm going to come down here with more darks. And what's kind of fun at this point, I'm going to do a technique that's pretty common with watercolor. It's using a credit card that's been cut up. Now, if I go in when it's really wet like this, the credit card will make a groove in the paper and the paint will go in and it'll make dark lines. If I wait a few minutes and I go in and it's more damp than wet, I will get a light line. I will get more of a white line. Let me see if I can kind of demonstrate that.
Didn't we do that on the wolf?
Yeah, I think we did.
The background with the lines and the wolf painting.
Yeah.
That was fun.
It was a fun one.
Yeah. Tina, you got a killer spot here.
What do you mean?
Because it's right up front.
Well, you're up front.
Oh, and today, no. the lefty in the back corner.
Oh,
She's
with that
next to
paint.
Lane.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is perfect spot. No wonder she's so good.
She sits right next to Deborah.
So
No,
again, I'm
she's
just
just
taking
talented.
this, and this is where the drawing skills kind of come in. They're, you know, they're lines that I'm used to making. I've drawn trees so many times. So you can kind of see down here where I'm lifting some of that paint out. And there's some twigs in the bottom of my reference of, because this is a winter picture. Actually, I want to fix something that's annoying me. I'm just going to come in and take that blob and turn it into something there. Okay, so they're going to be dark where it's real wet and then lighter where it is damp. And so there was a bunch of twigs, winter twigs without leaves down in this, towards the bottom. But I used to do pastels a lot when I was in my younger years as an artist because I loved the strokes, the drawing, the different textures you could build with layering strokes. And you can get somewhat the same quality using this. This is something you probably don't want to do until towards the end of the painting. And I'm just speeding things up a little bit here because I know it won't affect. But if you don't want it to mess up something you've already got, or you're going to go back in again, because if I go in and paint more, they'll become darker. So I'm aware of that. And I'm not going to worry about it too much. I am going to come up here and put this tree there. Go back to my funny brush here. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to take my Prussian, and I'm actually going to put a little bit of phthalo green in with my Prussian. And this is going to be another dark. So I'm going to be pretty careful with it. Underside of some branches. I'm not going to use a ton of it because I want some of that beautiful blues and violets to come through. But it just gives it another dimension. I believe that the way you start to really create good form is by having at least 4 values in your subject. And so I'm trying to, I like to try to at least achieve 4 different values. For those of you that don't know, values are going from light to dark. The tree over here is going to be probably in the most, in the dark, so I'm going to put a little bit more emphasis on the dark over on that edge. And it will actually help bring the eye inward if I bring the branches kind of in. And I am going over my marks because I planned on it. I realized I was going to do that. With watercolor, you have to think ahead. You have to, because everything you do affects what you're going to do in the future. So you always want to try to think ahead a little bit. And I'm going to come down here and take some of that green again. And I'm using phthalo green. I do have some viridian, which is a little bit stronger. Now, if you want to dull down your greens at all, you add a little bit of a permanent rose to that, which is the complementary color, and it will dull that down a bit, making it just a little bit more of in the grays. And I actually want some of that green to vibrate a little bit there. And I'm going to come in over in here and put a little bit more darks. I'm going to switch to a different brush. I'm a lazy person when it comes to switching brushes. I have a tendency to paint my whole painting with one brush. And then at some point I'll think, gosh, why am I feeling frustrated? It's because I need to change my brush. So I'm just anchoring this foreground in a little bit more darker values. I'm not completely covering it because light's going to be able to filter through and do different things. And I'm kind of thinking I need to do a little bit more over in this area. So what I'm going to do is just come over on this side of this tree. So I just took some of my violet and I'm actually going to drop some of that violet down in there. I don't want to lose all the transparency over there, so I'm being a little bit cautious. I am going to just solidify that there. Just maybe lift a little bit of the values out of there. Coming in and just adding a little bit more value. Going in with some darker purples down at the base of this tree.
I like how you crooked that tree just a little bit.
Yeah, you know, I want to make it not quite as boring as it could be otherwise. So I'm kind of wondering what I wanted, you know, if I was out of my car when I took this picture and was looking out, I would see actually burnt things, burnt trunks, but I'm ignoring that. So what I'm trying to figure out in my brain, just to make it a little bit different, in this one I kind of suggested there might be some more hills in the background that are lightly colored because of the sunrise. Well, maybe I'll wait a minute. I'm going to take a little bit more of my violets, or my turquoise up in here. I usually paint to music. So in my head, I have something, something sounding off. I've always thought of my painting time as meditational for me. I've never, especially in the last 25 years, I never separate my painting time from my spiritual time for me personally. And some people might not get that, and that's okay. But I mean, if it wasn't a spiritual, an extension of who I am spiritually, I can't imagine that I'd have the discipline and the desire to be as prolific a painter, because it's a daily, almost a daily thing. I rarely miss painting. Life might get a little complicated, and then I end up having to, we'll see how this looks. It may not look the way I want it. But I'm willing to experiment at this point because I've done this so many times. That's, again, the advantage of doing it more than once. I'm going to come in and darken some of these sky holes down at the bottom here. They're a little bit, they need to have some variations in them. So, but anyway, for me, it's my daily spiritual practice, and that's probably a good thing. It's helped me stay sane over the years, and it's taught me to be disciplined. It's the one area of my life I'm disciplined in. If I could only do that with food, you know.
You say that about sugar all the time.
Well, one of the nice things about getting older is the less I care about the food thing, you know. But anyway, so I'm going to come down and darken this area again. So for the time being, I'm going to call it. Let me try something else though. I always do this. You guys who have taken my classes know I always say I'm at the end, and then I change my mind. So I'm coming in and I'm just putting a little bit of a scrape here and there, just to hopefully just give the illusion that there might be a little light coming through here and
Just
there.
a little cardboard there that you're scraping
It's a credit card that I've cut up.
in. Oh. Yeah.
Well, actually, it's my United Healthcare card that I cut up. Yeah. I don't know. If you have to later on, you can always go in with a little bit of gouache to put a highlight here and there. Like I said, I've come a long way in my understanding of, or permission of allowing myself to use white. I used to, and you know, a lot of your traditional watercolor societies still do not want you to use anything that's not water soluble. So gesso's out of the running for that. But I don't know if you can even see that that's making a difference. So anyway, I will go in with a little bit of Dr. Martin's pH bleed proof white, which is a water soluble white. And so a lot of your watercolor societies will say you can use white as long as it's water soluble. And if you use watercolors that are titanium white or whatever, you don't get the coverage that you would get from the bleed proof white. It's actually an old graphic artist tool to cover type or whatever, to cover an ink line if you need to. So I'm going to mix a dark up, and the way I mix a dark, sometimes I will use a neutral tint, but for the most part I mix all my darks. I think it's important to know how to do those things, to mix those colors. And so I'm just mixing up a very dark color at the moment. I'm trying to gauge how wet areas are, just to kind of put some variations of some lines in there. Just to kind of make it a little more interesting. You could also do this with some white. You know, I just didn't bring my white with me today, so. You could use a watercolor pencil. Sometimes I do use my watercolor pencils quite a bit. Just a little bit more opportunity to put a little bit more of your own calligraphic signature in there. Could put a bird in the sky too if you wanted to, but I'm not gonna. I'm actually going to grab a little bit of ultramarine blue at this point and mix it with that black, which will make a almost a Payne's gray. And I'm going to use that in some of these areas just to create another dark area. I may do that down in here too. I'm gonna have a juicy palette to take home. And I think we're gonna be almost done for now. Any questions?
No, but I like what your finished product is.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I hold it up, but
Well, fortunately, we've got the camera.
yeah,
It
but it
really
looks so
works.
different. It does look different in person,
It's brighter on
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, very nice. I like those little rolling hills in between, it just enough that, yeah, it gives you that interest, you kind of like,
But-
what is that?
Yeah, it
Oh.
takes your eye in further. So like I said, the original photograph, these trees right in here especially had a really almost fluorescent orange kind of around them, and I did do that in the very first one that I did. I liked the effect. But it's also, you know, I can see with the sunrise, it's almost nicer to have it to be kind of soft and subtle and kind of delicate. I could go back in and put in some more layers of golds and different colors in the sky. That's still an option, but I'm not gonna do it today. And I may decide not to do it. So this one, as you can see, it's not completely dry yet. It's still pretty wet. If you touch it and it feels cool, that means it's still wet. But you can kind of see what that's going to be turning out like. So I may do a completely different painting on that one. I mean, a different subject. Who knows? Anyway, any questions?
So what is, that brush is called an arrow brush?
This brush?
Sword?
Yeah.
So it's a rigger.
A rigger.
A rigger, I think, is what they call it. It's a 1/4 inch rigger.
Okay.
Yeah. If you look at them, it goes to it's wide and then it curves and it goes to a point. So, and this one is about 1.5 inches, I would say, long, or 1.25 inches. And I find that I have another one by a different company and it doesn't have the length, and so it doesn't have the calligraphic, the ability to be as flexible. And
Yeah, I want one of those.
so Rosemary and Company is a wonderful little company over in UK, and they are, I love their brushes. I have a whole set of their brushes. And when they came, I was a little surprised. I don't usually use squirrel. I thought I was ordering sable, but they were all squirrel. And so with squirrel, you don't have a lot of spring to it. When you go like this, it kind of stays like that. But after I got used to using them, I decided I really liked them. They're great for doing really wet into wet technique. So.
Well, I always wondered how you got your trees to look like that, because, I would use the sticks
Yeah.
round and then use the smaller one to do, but it doesn't come out at all like any of those.
Yeah, it's definitely the brush, not the artist at all. I'm just teasing. No, it's the brush. But it's also a brush you have to practice with to get used to.
Right, I could see
Like
that.
any
'cause-
brush. Yeah.
And you have to know that when you press down on it, you get a really wide thing happening. So
It looks like an exacto knife.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of my fun, I call it my funny brush, because it's unpredictable to a certain extent.
Now,
So
your signature, is that like a white ink pen water?
it depends. You can buy pigmented pens now, and so I use a white pigmented pens for the darker paintings.
Gotcha.
You can also buy gold pigmented pens, and what you want is a pigmented pen that is fade proof to do your signature. I used to paint my signature. I got really good at painting my signature, but as I've gotten older, my hand's a lot shakier, and it's just easier to use a pen.
Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So, any question? Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And what was the brand name on that brush again?
It's by Rosemary and Company, and it's a 1/4 inch, and it's the Sable Blend, Series 770 if you're writing notes or anything. So, you can build up points with that company and then put your points to more brushes. So, they're all handmade. They're really, really nice brushes. Of course, with tariffs and everything, they might be a little bit more expensive now, but, okay.
She has a birthday coming up.
Who?
My birthday was forever, I mean, was,
Yeah.
it's gone.
I think we're still celebrating it,
No,
actually.
no, it's over and done with, I'm over.
No, Leslie has a birthday coming
Oh, when's your birthday? When's your
That's the
birthday?
second.
The 2nd of March?
March. Yeah.
You're a Pisces.
Yeah.
Okay, I should have known that.
I think you
thought-
asked me once.
Okay, I might have known that. Okay, well, anyway, thank you guys. I enjoyed my little demo today, and I'll see some of you Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Just me.
Okay.
The whole front row.
The whole front row, yeah.
Half the back, right?
All right.
It was very good. Tina, your picture is gorgeous.